What If is the latest Marvel Studios series to hit Disney Plus and their first ever animated production. It features the voices of more than 50 MCU cast members who reprise their roles from the films. Before we get into this, don't forget to hit that like button down below. It does wonders in getting my content out there, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to keep up to date with all my content. Marvel Studios' What If flips the script on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, offering an anthology of stories reimagining famous events from the films in unexpected ways. Creating a multiverse of infinite possibilities, What If features fan-favourite characters in wildly unique adventures, as the Watcher introduces us each week to alternate storylines that bounce around genres and tone. In this second episode, we're asked the question, what if T'Challa was accidentally abducted by the Ravagers instead of Peter Quill and was instead raised as Star-Lord? Okay, once again, let me preface that this is a spoiler review. I am going to be diving into these episodes spoiler heavy. This is basically a spoiler breakdown. I'm going to talk about my thoughts of what I thought about this episode and all that kind of stuff that I can't do just in a regular series review. As I've been saying, these one-shot episodes, these little self-contained stories, really do deserve to be delved into individually. So it's really fun to be able to be covering them like this. So again, lots of spoilers here. If you haven't watched this week's episode, make sure you do watch that and then you come back here and watch this one. Now, I've been saying from the beginning, one of my favorite things about this show is just how star-studded it is. I think it is insane how they have managed to wrangle so much talent to come over and reprise their characters in this series. There are more than 50 MCU actors reprising their characters from the movies in this series, which is it's practically unheard of in anything like this before. And these are lots of A-list talent are attached to this. The only major omissions that I could really think of from this are people like Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, and Scarlett Johansson are not back for the series, but pretty much almost everyone else is here reprising their roles, which I think is really cool. Now, I've got a list. This is perhaps the most star-studded of the episodes I've seen so far anyway. Disney provided me with the first 3 episodes of this ahead of the premiere. And out of the 3 that I've seen, this is definitely the most star-studded. I've written a list of the people that are involved in this show because I just knew I'm just going to forget some of these. So, of course, we've got Chadwick Boseman here as T'Challa. This is the last thing he ever did. This is the last role he ever recorded. And it's really quite... it's really quite strange hearing his voice in something new so far after his death. We will talk about that in just a moment. Josh Brolin is here as Thanos, Michael Rooker as Yondu, Sean Gunn is back as Craiglin. We've got Karen Gillan, of course, playing Nebula. Benicio del Toro is back as the Collector. Interesting thing is, it didn't sound like him. I kind of thought it was an impersonator, but he's there in the cast, so he's back as the Collector. Seth Green as Howard the Duck. Again, we'll talk about him in a moment. John Carney playing King T'Chaka and Angela Bassett as Queen Ramonda. Danai Gurira is here as Okoye, and Kurt Russell is here as Ego. So, I mean, look at all this talent that's bundled into the only one glaring omission in this episode is Chris Pratt is not here voicing Star-Lord. Now, Star-Lord does not have a huge role in this episode, but Chris Pratt is not amongst the cast list. But whoever is voicing Peter Quill in this episode does a pretty good job. And this kind of puts a bit of a spin on the first Guardians movie, but then really goes in its own direction. Now, I said this last week, the first episode, the Captain Carter episode, really was almost like a beat-for-beat retelling of Captain America the First Avenger, with just a few little changes here and there. Now, that was a really great way to start this series, I think, particularly for more general audiences who might be a bit confused about what the hell is going on with this series. This episode, it kind of starts giving you a better idea of what this series is going to be all about in the long run. In this one, it plants this seed of this idea that T'Challa is picked up instead of Peter Quill. T'Challa becomes Star-Lord. Peter Quill essentially just becomes a deadbeat regular guy, just living his regular life out on Earth. T'Challa goes on again to become Star-Lord and doesn't become the Black Panther. So there's all these ramifications of this one little thing. I like this one a lot more than I did like the first episode, but there are better episodes than this one coming, I can tell you that as well. But I really like this idea that we We start out, the first scene is essentially T'Challa in the role of Star-Lord, trying to find the Infinity Stone, as he does in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Just after he reveals himself as T'Challa, you've got, you know, the guys who come in and they want the Infinity Stone as well. And in the original movie, Star-Lord goes, "I'm Star-Lord," and they go, "Who?" In this version, they know who he is. They're like, "Oh my god, Star-Lord, the great outlaw of the galaxy," or whatever. So I think even from there, it's this great little spin. You as a viewer are expecting something to happen, but it's completely flipped on its head. And it's just the tiniest things like that that I think really make this show so really wonderful and so exciting to watch as a die-hard fan. It's something so minuscule as someone else becomes Star-Lord. It just completely changes everything. Like Thanos becomes kind of a good guy in this version. He still has his grand schemes of wanting to take over the universe, to set the balance of the universe and to commit genocide, but he's essentially a good guy at heart who joins the Ravagers and helps them along with their plight. Thanos is a little bit more light-hearted here. And it's really cool to hear Josh Brolin doing this more light-hearted version of Thanos, this really comedic version, and it's so fun. Like, from the moment he comes on the screen and you think he's going to be the big bad and then he makes like a joke. Now, we're actually going to get another episode later down the line where Gamora is actually Thanos. She is actually the Mad Titan. She's the main villain. So it makes me wonder whether some of these episodes will continue. These are, of course, very self-contained stories, but I do wonder if we do continue with this thread somewhere down the line where they go, okay, well, since Thanos is not the bad guy, it turns out Gamora is the bad guy in this alternate take, in this alternate universe. And this one actually ends with that open ending. Of course, we do catch up with Peter Quill, and Ego has actually come down to Earth and revealed himself as his father, and it leaves this real open ending. So I feel like some episodes might be open-ended because we actually do get another payoff down the line in some small way. So I'm excited to see maybe what can happen, particularly with this episode somewhere down the line. So anyway, yeah, I do think that this is a really cool little take on this story because it isn't like that first episode where it's a beat by beat. It is a completely changed narrative. There are a few similar things in here where they do go to visit the Collector about the Infinity Stones, but a lot of different stuff happens there as well because you've got different characters interacting with him, and the way that they would interact with him then changes the course of everything. Of course, one of the characters here is Howard the Duck. We've got Seth Green voicing Howard, which is so cool. Of course, James Gunn really just added Howard the Duck into the first Guardians as a little bit of a joke. It was like, well, here's Howard the Duck, everyone. It's this stupid character from the comics. And I feel like when James Gunn put that character there, he probably never imagined that they would ever run with it and kind of do any other things with it. I feel like it is a character that they probably won't utilize too much in live action. I think it would work, and maybe this is the first step in making something like that happen a little bit more substantially. Of course, he appeared in the background of Endgame. He's there right at the end, just kind of, you see him a couple of times in the background fighting Thanos' army. But this is the most substantial thing we get to see with him, and he kind of aids T'Challa in finding his way out of the collection and then ends up really helping in this whole spiral of this version of the multiverse and how the different things happen. Now, of course, we do have Chadwick Boseman here as T'Challa. Now, a lot of people will probably watch this and go, wow, that's a really great impersonation someone's doing. Now, this is definitely Chadwick Boseman here. This was one of the last things I believe Chadwick Boseman did before he passed away. So his recordings of this were done soon before he did pass away. And it's quite surreal to kind of hear something new from him because, of course, it was like a year ago that he passed away. And it's so strange to be getting kind of new performances from him. And I believe this is the last thing that we will be seeing or hearing him in. There have been rumors kind of floating around over the last couple of weeks that there may be multiple alternate versions of T'Challa throughout this series, so that would be great if we then get to hear Chadwick Boseman again down the line. But it really is so wonderful and quite emotional to hear him again portraying his character. And you can even just in the vocal performance, you can tell how much love and respect he had for his character and how much he loved being here. Again, like all of these episodes, the style and tone of these change depending on the story that's being told, and they've really been doing this to match the style and tone of the movie that they are kind of riffing off. So of course this takes on a very comedic tone, just like those Guardians movies. I think it's such a nice change of pace from that first episode, which is very, very dramatic and very action heavy. There's a lot of really great action pieces in here and some really nice dramatic moments too, but overall there's just some really great comedy in here. Like, I was legitimately laughing at some of the gags that were in here, particularly, again, we go back to the character of Thanos, that different take that is put on it. It's so good. So I really like the humor in here, and it did feel very organic to the Marvel movies. Again, the thing I've loved about this show so far is that it does feel organically connected to this series, and you can take it as like, yeah, this feels like it does belong within that world. So far, out of these first 2 episodes, this is my favorite, but again, I have seen more, and these just get better and better as they do go along. But at that, I will happily be giving this episode of Marvel's What If a 4 out of 5. Once again, I will be covering the individual What If episodes week by week. I'll be uploading these spoiler review breakdown videos just after the episode has debuted on Disney+, so it's ready for you there once you get out of the episode. Thanks again to the incredible team over at Disney+ for providing me with the first 3 episodes of this series for the purposes of my video coverage on my channel right here. And thanks to everybody out there for watching. I hope I'll see you on the next one. Take it easy. Hey everyone, if you haven't yet, smash that big old subscribe button up on your screen to keep up to date with all my content, and hit that like button down below. Also, don't forget to check me out on social media, and please consider supporting me over on Patreon for as little as $1 a month for exclusive videos, early access content, and to get your name up on the screen. Thanks again for watching.